My name is Coroutine, and today I'll be giving you a track breakdown of my remix of Miss Shadow. This song was selected off of the Chroma Part 1 EP, and since it was the first remix that I'd done for Dreadlight, I wanted to maintain a lot of the original song's elements. The song structure is pretty much unchanged, and in addition to the vocals, I also included the original guitars and even some of the original drums. The original song had two guitar tracks, a rhythm guitar which played the chords, and a lead guitar which filled in a lot of the melodic interest. Here's the rhythm guitar by itself. And here's the lead guitar by itself. And together they sound like this. The bass in the original track was octaved. I ended up using only the octaved part of the bass. This is not very present in the mix, but it adds a lot of heft. The one modification that I did do to all of these tracks is that I added a lot of hard cuts. This serves to make it sound much punchier when it's paired with very aggressive drums and synthesizers. Speaking of synths, let's take a look at that synth bass. The bass is a flex preset from the Saif Samir synthwave pack, and it sounds like this. The 80s sound of this bass is intensified when I send it through an arpeggiator, which makes it way easier for me to prototype bass lines. The bass has very few patterns as it goes throughout the song, but the interesting one is right at the end. The next synth I want to show you is the lead synth. This takes the place of the guitars during the opening of the song. The other main synthesizer that I used in this remix is this one here. This is basically a reinterpretation of the lead guitar sound. Just with some added melodic interest. This also extends into the bridge. This synth is made of square waves and saw waves to emulate an NES sort of vibe, along with an overdrive and a low-pass filter on top of it. And that's about it for the synthesizers. Not much too crazy going on there. Now, the vocals are where it starts to get interesting. The lead vocal is pulled basically directly from the original track. The vocal track starts out clean in the verses.
Put on a show, Miss Shadow, causing trouble 'cause you won't let go.
But during the choruses, I start piling stuff on top of it. I've added a little bit of distortion and a little bit of auto-tune in select places.
I don't wanna fight 'cause I'm not your enemy. You're blinded from the right remedy.
I've also got an octave effect that's active during the choruses.
I don't wanna fight, 'cause I'm not your enemy. You're blinded from the right remedy.
After the bridge of this song, I slowly reintroduce those effects to build tension.
I'm not gonna lie, don't mean he tied up in his light. I know that it's hard to see that he likes to keep his lies where his mouth should be.
The vocal harmonies are also pulled directly from the original. For these, I've added a simple pitch shifter that adds an additional harmony, a perfect fifth down.
Won't let go, precedes your fame.
This was not applied on the chorus, where I just added a simple flanger effect for a little bit of added texture.
I don't wanna fight your blind remedy.
Here's what the combined vocal tracks sound like on the final chorus.
I don't wanna fight, 'cause I'm not your enemy. You're blinded from the right remedy. I don't like your vibe, your negative energy. How you like to justify your misery.
There is one section, though, where I couldn't resist adding a little extra something. Right here after the second chorus.
Misery. How you like to justify your misery. How you like to justify your misery.
And in context, it sounds like this.
How you like to justify your misery.
Now onto those drums. For this song, I used a pretty standard drum kit. This is just the built-in FPC controller with a lot of stock samples. This kick drum and snare are both stock. The hi-hat comes from a 909 kit, and I have a second, more understated kick drum for this section right here. In addition to those, I use a snap sample from Kashmir and a crash cymbal from Travis Barker. As I'd mentioned before, I'm also using the original drums as a textural layer. Altogether, that sounds like this. The mixing on these drums is pretty simple. I just have a single band limiter with the saturation set up pretty high. One final detail I'd like to highlight is the voicemail message. This is the same voicemail sample that was included in the original song, but I put it through a few effects to make it a little bit punchier.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, Please record your message.
Although this beep is bespoke, and I put a few effects on it to make it a little bit crunchier. All of this very loud and overdriven sound interacts with the final compression to make it very, very aggressive and punchy.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Speaking of compression, let's take a look at the mixing and mastering of this track. The mixing and mastering here isn't anything super special. The only real notable thing is that everything except for the drums is going through a Fruity Love filter, which does a huge fake sidechain. Now, I could have very easily also done a real sidechain that's triggered by the kick drum, but with this style of music, fake sidechain works just as well. You can especially hear this if I mute the drum track and play everything else without it. After that, I send everything through a moderate EQ to emphasize certain frequencies and de-emphasize others that I found were piling up. And then I send everything through a Maximus multiband compressor. This is the final compression that goes across everything and gives the mix a nice, rich, full sound. Maximus is a 3-band multiband compressor, and I can play you each of the bands individually and then everything that's sent through the master compression. On the low band, I have some upwards compression with a moderately long release. Another note for the low band is that I have everything almost completely merged down to mono. In the mid band, I have pretty normal compression with a rather large knee to make it a little bit more gentle. This stage also adds a little bit of stereo width to the mid. The high band also has a very small amount of upwards compression attached to it, but it isn't really doing all that much. The biggest facet of this compression on the high band is that it chops off the very top of some of those peaks. After all of those bands individually, the master band is a pretty standard compression as well, with a very soft knee that allows the peaks to go well above unity gain, where they're then chopped off by this soft clipping control here. This saturation adds a lot of beef to the sound, which is what you want in a genre like this where everything has got to be super punchy all the time. It sounds mostly the same, just a little bit beefier. And before we conclude, here's a look at the final chorus without any vocals so that you can really clearly hear the instruments. That's my remix of Miss Shadow. Stay tuned for the next video where I'll be breaking down my remix of LMTFA. Until then, this is Coroutine, signing off.